Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. One of the most important things for Star Citizen is its flight model. It's a spaceship flying and combat game primarily, and throughout its over now decade of being able to fly ships in-game, the flight model has changed significantly multiple times. It's been relatively controversial and polarizing at times too, with the release of Squadron 42 planned next year and Star Citizen's Persistent Universe focusing on playability. CIG need to make sure the flight model is in a good state. It is the core feature for the game. Various updates are coming with control surfaces, atmospheric flight, tons of balance, IFCS updates and changes as well, which is your flight computer. So it's interesting actually. The IFCS basically takes your inputs and tells the thrusters how much thrust to thrust and where to point if they're sort of gimbaled thrusters or whatever, or articulate. Do you know what I mean? What I'm trying to say is that CIG are pushing forward to try and finish off their flight model and to get it into a good state. But where are we now? I want to take a look at a big forum thread that's appeared over the last couple of days and the dev responses there, or dev response from YogiClat, who answered a ton of stuff there. And YogiClat is CIG's principal vehicle programmer at CIG. The thread I'm looking at is flight model still busted after years, with the original poster saying, "Am I the only one who is still bothered by seeing ships floating in atmosphere at any angle? Looks like they're made of styrofoam, just floating and spinning around at any angle with no mass." He then posts a picture with two Idrises just floating around and says, "You'd think that capital-sized ships would actually feel heavy. Sad to see this same issue after God knows how many years." And then at the end of that post, he does then edit and say, "Nice to hear CIG is aware and working on it." This is because there was a huge amount of replies from YogiClat here, and let's jump into that. The reply he made to the main thread there: "The floaty big ships won't get resolved until we roll out the updates to the flight model, which will include the control surface tech for atmospheric flight. The general ability of ships to float is simply driven from their ability to counter gravity. It's a bit of a between a rock and a hard place situation. We don't want to hamstring the ships so they can't take off, but at the same time, we dislike ships hovering with their nose down indefinitely." Now, there is two ways to handle that. One, balance the thruster efficiencies in a way so that in standard Earth atmo, the ships only provide enough thrust if their VTOLs are deployed. Two, add some flaky flight model stuff that auto-corrects the ship altitude or even limits it. At the moment, we're naturally working more towards approach 1, but it's had some difficulties that we need to deal with properly. Thrust in general would be very limited, and in default 1G environments, only vertically VTOL aided or forward thrust would provide enough Gs to stay afloat. However, that also means that retro or lateral thrust would need to be so weak that at the same time it would be very easy to crash land your ship, which naturally conflicts with the idea of an approachable game, as you can imagine. So if we go for that first approach, we need to add a few more things. Automated controls that kind keep your ship from dipping over, maybe even an altitude hold autopilot mode, specifically during landing. A reliable indication of your thrust to weight ratio against gravity that takes cargo weight into account so that you don't try to take off or land overloaded. Some more help during landing so that players can easily land without going nose down. A downwards angled landing cam e.g. or a general landing UI. Now, that's just me saying what's on my mind at the moment. We're currently busy with the flight model updates. Space flight model is done. Control surfaces tech and new quantum is not yet. And we'll get to these topics of Atmo ship hovering fairly soon. It does not mean that what I described above will ultimately end up in the game though. We will try these things out internally, but we might end up deciding against that if it's too punishing. We'll see when we get there. Absolutely fantastic response from Yogi, going over what they're working on at the moment, what they've got planned, and problems they're facing. And obviously they've got a lot of stuff done and ready for Squadron 42, and they're bringing more and more into the Persistence universe. But obviously there's also bits that are not done for Squadron, and they're still experimenting with, and their sort of new quantum mode they've got is supposed to look and feel better, but also generally allow you to move around the verse more easily. And a lot of their flight model stuff, a lot of this sort of traversal stuff, they are making it a bit more gamified. It is less simmy and more in the way of something that's accessible and playable and gamified for sure. There was loads of follow-up questions here though, so let me jump into some of this so you can see where we are with some more bits of the flight model and plans for it, or at least current plans for it. I fully hope and wish you will try the first approach. Could you also add audio cues for big ships like entering heavy gravity, thrust efficiency greatly decreased, or something like that? Yogi responds, that's a really good point. I can already see a player frantically throwing cargo out in the hope to get light enough to stop the ship in time. Another follow-up. Hover mode. Never had the time to cook. It could have been a better system after all these years. We really need an Atmo mode and space mode rather than a fast and slow mode. Yogi responds, with the updated flight model, you can turn off what is called the IFCS core. It cuts away all assists, including rotational stability. In gravity environments, that pretty much gets you what hover mode was, just a bit harder. I'm very keen to try that out. Very, very keen to see what that feels like. You're asking us to have faith in yet another flight model change that we can't see or play. You asked us to have faith in master modes too, and it ended up that we had more faith in it than you all did, given how quickly it was abandoned. Rapport needs to be rebuilt, and that doesn't seem to be any kind of priority or concern. Yogi responds again, I'm not asking you to have faith, I really am just stating where our development reality is. Yes, we showed quantum boosting during CitizenCon 2023, but since then, the requirements and other parts of the game have changed significantly, requiring changes in the general design and implementation. Frankly said, it's not ready for delivery, and that's nothing unusual. Iteration happens in game development all the time, and is just part of the process. Are upcoming flight model changes concerning, I suppose, is a good question, but we don't know. We need CIG to finish off and then tweak the flight model so it is in the best state it can be, and to do that, they need to build on it, and this is just part of that process. Just to clarify this, do you mean this is pretty much hover mode, or are you saying turning off IFCS will point thrusters down and actually give us that helicopter style flight we had? Yogi responds, without the core gravity, compensation is gone, and so is IFCS's ability to command a goal velocity, be it for linear movement or rotation, meaning you have to brake yourself if you want to come to a stop. For hovering, you need to constantly apply as much acceleration as is needed to stay in hover, and control your rotation manually so you don't slide. If you're just a little offset in a roll, accelerating upwards will cause a drift. So that's really only for very advanced users, I mean pilots. That'll be interesting. I'm really interested to see how many players will use that, and does it give you actually any benefits, or is it just more of a sim feel? With the addition of the new flight model, will we be able to leave the pilot's seat while the ship keeps accelerating like it used to? I liked walking around the ship while it was flying. Yogi says, it doesn't do this yet, but it's on the to-do list to look into. Are ship mass adjustments a part of this flight model work? I think a great many people are annoyed by the current feel of ships and vehicles, as in they feel and bounce like they're made of cardboard. Probably not, I suppose, as that's a bigger issue with the physics model, but one does impact the other. Mass and feeling are really two separate topics. We can make a paper plane feel weighty or an Idris like a fighter. The feeling, i.e. setting of how much thrust the thrusters provide, is just part of the flight tuning, and all ships will get a pass for the updated flight model, as the data will change. Hey Yogi, any chance you go over quickly what the current plans are for speed transitions? When John and Rich went over it last, there were a few confusions over what the base speeds would be. Will we lose current nav speeds totally on a basic loadout ship? Yogi again responds here, as Rich and John said in the past, there are changes coming concerning nav mode, and it relates to quantum boosting, but I don't want to talk details or speeds on this yet. You'll have to wait until we have more to show, as we're still modifying things. But in general, the effort is going towards a more fluent travel system without opening the combat speeds too much. Hey Yogi, can we maybe get a slower thrust ramp up for ships? Right now, thrusters deliver full thrust before they are even properly aligned, and the sudden jumps of thrust, even with light inputs, make maneuvering both difficult and look unbelievable. It'd be great if we got an exponential thrust curve for all ships, with time to full thrust efficiency taking longer on larger ships. Yogi responded, the updated flight model has jerk, i.e. thrust is not immediately available and ramps up, and things should feel smoother overall. That's really good to hear, actually. Are there plans to release the space portion of this new flight model in an experimental Arena Commander mode? What is the internal feeling on Master Mode's experimental test? Was that sort of experimentation valuable, and in what ways did it succeed or fail for feedback? This is unfortunately a less satisfying answer. There are plans to test things when things are ready to be tested. Yes, we're not there yet though. How much is your team getting Joker carded these days per Benoit? Are you seeing that less now, so you're all focusing on flight model changes, or able to shift to feature work? Yogi responds, last time we got the Joker card was for jump points, but we're not in a time pressure situation for the flight model updates. First of all, we don't have a good goal date yet. I mean, I have done one in my head for which I'm sure will not work out, and secondly, we won't get time pressure. For the Master Mode's release, we had to convert all ships within a very short period of time, which is the reason why they ended up being fairly similar to each other. The data had to change for all ships at once. Once committed, we had to go. That is different for the updated flight model because the data sits neatly in parallel, so we can update and tune the ships without polluting the old flight model data. And that means that the biggest risk in terms of time commitment is gone, and so I do hope we won't need a Joker card. I believe Joker card is referring to all hands on deck focusing on a particular thing, going, this is the most important thing, do this, and potentially jumping and moving around into teams to help assist them do something. Citation needed though, feel free to correct me in the comments below. I did see a couple of other responses as well. Got it, so this IFCS off mode, now we have to actively apply upward thrust, and in doing so the ship will behave as it did in hover mode. Amazing, we're so back. Follow-up question then, does utilising this IFCS off mode then produce a benefit as in longer hovering time without burning out thrusters, or is it simply viewed as challenge mode? Hopefully before you respond to the above, will it be possible to set a profile for when things are turned off or customize IFCS to act in a certain way in Atmo? In my ideal world, I'd like to, when hitting Atmo, tell IFCS to focus throttle on downward force, and turn off my top thrusters and set forward, rear and side thrusters to about 10% output. But this might be more granularity than we should expect from the system. No, that's a bit too complex to be useful. You'll not be able to set per thruster output limits, as that would make the ship just unstable to the point of being unusable. That'll be like decoupling the front wheels of a car, but the acceleration limiter still exists, so you can scale the whole thrust output down if you want. I'd assume at a minimum that hovering a large ship in a high gravity environment burns through fuel like nothing else, and will eventually start popping thrusters as they can't keep up with the load. The bigger the ship, the faster this all happens. Stalling, ? Yeah, fuel consumption is one thing that can happen, sure, but stalling doesn't happen in hover, or rather, it constantly happens in hover because you're not moving through the air, thus no lift can be generated. Boom! That's it for that thread at the moment. I will link it down below because it may increase further. But I thought it was super useful to see where CIG were with some of their flight model stuff and some of the plans they've got. They are pretty far along with it, but there are still bits and bobs that they need to get right, to develop, to get done, to get in, to get tested. And as I said, with Squadron 42 looming, they need to get this done and in ASAP and in as good state as they possibly can. But what do you think? Are you happy with the direction that that's all going? Did you really prefer an older flight model that they changed? Do you think what they're doing now can be a genuinely great flight model eventually, or is essential for what they're trying to do with Squadron and Star Citizen's persistent universe? Does it excite you? Does it terrify you? Something that might want to excite and terrify you, NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/BoredGamer or use the links below. Click that and then get NordVPN. It's a big discount there. If you didn't have a VPN before, then you'll have one after buying it. That's the NordVPN promise. I use NordVPN for better accessibility, security, and privacy on the interwebs, and you should too. May is about fleets, lots of dogfighting, flying with friends, and once again we've partnered with Lunar Wolves, a Star Citizen organization looking for recruits. Maybe you might be an appropriate fit. You can check the recruitment page for them down below. But we're giving away a fleet of ships. Commenting on any of my videos during the month of May gets lots of different lucky winners. The chance to win a Constellation Andromeda, a F7C Super Hornet Mark II, a Redeemer, and a Cutlass Black. Each winner will win one of those, courtesy of the Lunar Wolves. But wait, there is more. The Lunar Wolves are also giving away an RSI Polaris with lifetime insurance to one of their new recruits. Winners of that particular ship will be selected randomly from eligible org signups, but the rest of those ships, they're given away on my channel entirely, so you just need to comment on any of my videos to be in for a chance of winning. Lunar Wolves welcome all who share their passion for adventure and love of Star Citizen, and you can find out more about them on the lunarwolves.org webpage as well. If you would like to further support the channel, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, all that sort of good stuff. We've got join buttons under videos that help support the channel as well. You get some exclusive videos that are going out now. They've got Patreon, which basically does the same. We make daily Star Citizen content here, and that's partly due to the people that go the extra mile and help out the channel. I hope you have a fantastic May, a fantastic Fleet Week, and a great Star Citizen Alpha 4.1.1 experience.